All right, we're 2-0 in our last two NBA tier package bets on BrockPage.com. And the link for today's NBA tier package bet is in the description section below. Now, if you're not signed up for that package, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll explain a little bit more about it in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the video. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal bets on BrockPage.com. We currently have over 835 members who are signed up and active on my safe and secure webpage right now. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side, and total. And what I do on my website is I'll actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. And just a reminder, if you sign up for a membership here today on BrockPage.com, you're actually going to get access to that package that you pay for every single day all the way through the end of March. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some college basketball action. Actually, some really significant games here today, so let's get into it. We're going to start with Houston taking on Memphis, 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Sunday, March 6th, 2022. Houston's minus 2.5, totals 138. Now, Houston won their last 6 straight, and they failed to cover only once during that span. The Cougs are also 7-2 straight up as the official road team, and they're arguably the best defensive team in the nation. Now, not only are the Cougs in the top 5 in the country in fewest points allowed per contest, they're actually leading the nation in defensive field goal percentage. Now, scoring-wise, Kyler Edwards is dropping nearly 14 points a game, along with 5 rebounds and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Fabian White Jr. is draining nearly 40% of his three-pointers himself. He's also averaging 13 points a game as well. And speaking of offensive production, Houston currently finds themselves in the top 15 in the country in offensive rebounding per game. Now, they're taking on a Memphis squad who failed to cover the point spread here recently against the likes of USF and SMU. And when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two programs, Memphis lost 6 out of their last 10 contests with Houston, and they averaged only 69 points a game during that span. And really, if you think about it, there's not a whole lot these guys do wrong, but you do want to keep in mind that Memphis is making only 68% of their free throws at the FedEx Forum. So when you play a team like Houston, every little thing matters, including shooting from the stripe. If they put you to the line, you got to make them pay. And unfortunately, Memphis has not been doing that this season. That's an area that could potentially get them in trouble here today. Now, total-wise, Memphis is 64% to the over in the FedEx Forum this year. They also went 7-3 to the over in their last 10 outings at any location. Meanwhile, Houston, on the other side of things, they are 7-2 to the over as the official road team. I'm going to lean toward Houston minus 2.5 in the over 138. Next ball game, it is going to be Penn State versus Rutgers, 12 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Rutgers is minus 5.5, totals 124. Despite the recent issues, the Scarlet Knights have been really good at the rack this year. They're 13-3 straight up in Jersey Mike's Arena, and they've really been tough to score against in that building. Now, Rutgers allows only 59 points a game in Piscataway. They're limiting their opponents to just 39% shooting from the field there. Now, scoring-wise, Ron Harper Jr., he's averaging over 15.5 points a game, along with 6 boards and 40% shooting from three-land. Meanwhile, Geo Baker, he's scoring over a dozen points a game himself, along with a couple of boards and 3 assists. Now, they're taking on a Penn State team who lost 6 out of their last 9 themselves. And they've garnered themselves only 1 road win on the year. These guys have been terrible when traveling. And in addition to winning only 10% of their road games this year, the Nittany Lions have averaged only 59 points a game offensively in those road contests. Now, total-wise, no real surprise here. Penn State 60% to the under in their road contests. They also went 9-1 to the under in their last 10 meetings against Rutgers. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Meanwhile, the Scarlet Knights on the other side of things, they saw their last 3 straight fall under the posted number themselves. 5-2 to the under in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward Rutgers -5.5 and the under 124. Next ball game, it is going to be Michigan versus Ohio State, and that's going to be a 12:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Ohio State's -4 with the total at 141.5. Now the Buckeyes are 13-2 straight up in the Value City Arena, and they're also in the top 20 in the nation in home defensive boards. And speaking of defensive performance, the Buckeyes are allowing only 65 points a game on their home court. They're also holding their competition to just 40% shooting from the field there. Now scoring-wise, E.J. Liddell, he's averaging 19.5 points per contest, along with 7 boards and a couple assists. He's also been pretty good shooting the ball from beyond the arc this year. And speaking of which, Malachi Branham, he's making 44% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging over 13 points a game. When Branham is hot from beyond the arc, he is absolutely a game changer. And speaking of shooting the basketball, Ohio State's making 50% of their field goals in Columbus. They're taking on a Michigan team who has a losing record on the road this year. And they're averaging only 67 points a game in their last 10 meetings with the Buckeyes. As a matter of fact, out of these teams' last 10 contests against each other, Michigan has gotten the W only 3 times. And they covered in only 30% of those very same outings. Now, as far as this year is concerned, the Wolverines have been just a bit too lax on the defensive end of the court. These guys are allowing nearly 73 points a game away from home this year. That could potentially be very problematic traveling to Columbus here today. Now, injury-wise, Jackson is still out indefinitely for the Wolverines. Meanwhile, for the Buckeyes on the other side of things, Key and Young are questionable. Sewing is still out indefinitely as well. When it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of Ohio State's last 5 got over the line. They're also 16-12 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Michigan's 67% to the over as the official road team. I'm going to lean toward Ohio State -4 and the over 141.5. Next contest, it is going to be Loyola Chicago versus Drake, and that's going to be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off at the Enterprise Center. Loyola Chicago's -5, totals 131.5. And even though Drake is hotter than a pistol right now, it's actually Loyola Chicago who's amongst the toughest defensive teams in the nation. These guys allow only 61 points per contest, and they currently rank in the top 20 in the country in defensive boards. And speaking of rebounds, Lucas Williamson, he's grabbing nearly 5 rebounds a game. He's also scoring 13 points per contest. He's the team's leading scorer. And speaking of offensive production, Williamson's also drilling 40% of his shots from downtown. Very dangerous shooting from three-land. Now, Braden Norris, he's also making 44% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging double-digit points a game. Now, obviously, when it comes to shooting the basketball, the Ramblers are very good. As a matter of fact, these guys are in the top 10 in the nation in shooting the 3-ball. And they're also making nearly 50% of their field goals at any location. They're taking on a Drake team who failed to cover recently against the likes of Southern Illinois, Valparaiso, and Bradley. And when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two schools, the Bulldogs lost 6 out of their last 10 games against Loyola Chicago, and they averaged only 65 points a game during that span. Now, as far as this year's concerned, well, the Bulldogs really haven't been rebounding offensively all that well. And when it comes to the total, Drake went 80% to the under in their last 10 ball games. Meanwhile, Loyola on the other side, they saw 4 out of their last 5 fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Loyola Chicago -5 and the under 131.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Iowa versus Illinois. That's going to be a 7:30 Eastern start time. Illinois is -3, totals 153.5. Now the Illini, they've played some really good defense at home this season. These guys are allowing only 65 points a game in the State Farm Center. They're also limiting their competition to just 39% shooting from the field there. Now when it comes to offensive production in this one, the Illini is averaging 78 points a game as the official home team. And of course, Big Kofi Coburn, he's scoring 21 points per contest, along with 10.5 boards. Meanwhile, Alfonso Plummer, he's making 42% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring over 15 points a game. Now, they're taking on an Iowa team who really doesn't thrive on the defensive end of the court. These guys allow nearly 75 points a game on the road. And in addition to that, they're also amongst the worst in the Big Ten in road defensive boards. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two teams, the Hawkeyes are allowing 78 points a game in their last 10 contests against Illinois. Now, total-wise, Iowa saw overs recently against Nebraska, Maryland, and Penn State. Meanwhile, Illinois saw 5 out of their last 9 get over the line themselves. The Illini also 60% to the over at the State Farm Center this year. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Illinois -3 and the over 153.5. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on BrockPage.com. If you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just another reminder, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at BrockPage.com.